Shalom, 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 everyone. Welcome to a live episode of Life with Sharon. And I am Sharon, your host of Life with Sharon. It is Tuesday, a great day to be alive and well. And we thank God for this blessing of this brand new day. It's evening time here on the West Coast. So we thank God for the blessing of a brand new evening that we've never seen before. And what's today's date? Moderator, what's today's date? I think it's July. This month is moving quickly. It's July 12th already, but summer's not over yet. I hope you're enjoying the summer and doing all those things that you want to do before the summer is over to enjoy yourself and your family. And tonight we're going to talk about some things regarding our mental health so we can become more educated about our mental health because when we become more informed and more educated, we can better manage it and therefore maybe deal better with some of the symptoms that we may be experiencing when we encounter an episode of depression and or anxiety. I do believe that if you live any length of time, that more than likely just with circumstantial depression or anxiety, when just things just happen that contribute to that, as opposed to something that might be more clinical, that if you live any length of time, there's some level of depression that you're going to have. Let's just say when a loved one passes away, one of the stages, if some of us talk about stages of grief, is depression. And there's a level of sadness. So it's normal to experience these things in life, but we need to know that it is normal. Nothing's wrong with us per se that can't be managed, but it needs to be managed. So we're going to talk about depression and anxiety tonight, the symptomology, how it affects our everyday life and relationships. So how it shows up in our lives on a daily basis when we encounter those episodes of depression and anxiety. But before I get into the heart of the matter, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, like the Facebook page, click the notification bell so you'll be notified whenever we're on Full Life Communications. And again, like the video. So again, tonight we're talking about depression and anxiety. I am a mental health clinician. I am in private practice. And so this is what I do for a living. I am educated in this area. So this is my expertise. Now, I am a therapist, but I am not your therapist. Let me just say that right off the bat. This is not therapy or counseling for you. I am informing you, giving you information. So hopefully with information, now you'll be armed to therefore notice some signs and symptoms in yourself, loved ones, or whatever. So if you want to seek counseling or some sort of support, you can, because maybe with this education, it's like, you know what, I think I fit some of that category, or I know someone who does. And now you can offer or suggest to them, maybe they might want to seek counseling, or maybe they might want to read a self-help book or something of that nature. But again, this is not therapy. This is information to help the audience become educated to mental health. All right, so we're going to start with depression. And when depression is past events, when we experience past events that have come to harm us, and in today, even though the happening may have been years ago, but it doesn't necessarily have to be, but it can be years ago, but it's still bothering us. It's still affecting us in our mind, mentally, cognitively, in our thoughts, which is our thinking. It's also affecting us in our emotions by how we feel. It's affecting us in our behavior with how we act. And it's affecting us physiologically within our bodies. And a lot of times we don't realize some of the things that we experience in our bodies have to do with our mental health. There's a direct relationship with our mental health and what goes on in our physical bodies and in our brains. So, not going to get into all of that, but just wanted you to know that there is a relationship. So, I'm going to give you some of the symptoms, and this is not an exhaustive list. And I believe the moderator is going to put them up on the screen also in the chat. Those symptoms, and I want you to be aware of this because some of these are so common and we might attribute it to something else other than our mental health. So some of the symptoms, again, this is not an exhaustive list, but I'm going to read to you some of the symptoms so I can make sure I share with you the significant ones that I wrote down. So depression, some of the symptoms of depression would be sadness, hopelessness, despondency, crying spells, increased or decreased appetite. And therefore, if you have an increased or decreased appetite, you may gain weight with an increased appetite and lose weight with a decreased appetite. Some sort of sleep disturbance, whether it is insomnia where you just can't sleep, or it is trouble falling asleep, trouble staying asleep, or trouble waking in the morning. One of those, several of those, all of those are part of the sleep disturbance that you could potentially have if you are depressed. Now, if a person is depressed doesn't mean they'll fall into have every one of these symptoms, but you'll have several more than not, more than likely, or at least 4 or 5 or 6 of them, because there's a lot of symptoms. Trouble. Okay, so we talked about sleeping. Not wanting to participate in activities that we normally find enjoyable, right? So it's like, I don't feel like it because we're more lethargic, more despondent, as I said earlier. And so we isolate. We don't want to hang out with friends and family. We want to stay in our room and lay down. There's a low motivation, low energy. And there's a possibility of suicidal thoughts. And there's also a possibility of suicidal attempts. So I want to let you know, too, you can look in the chat, and the suicide hotline, the domestic violence hotline, and the gambling hotline are all in the chat. If anyone is feeling as though they need that now or in the future, take those numbers down, put it somewhere where you know where it is. So in case you or a family member or a friend ever need it, you could just pull it out, put it in your phone. That's what you do. Put it in your phone under those different names, hotlines. And so you'll always have those hotlines. You never know who might need that hotline. I think we should all keep it on us in our phone, since our phone is a walking phone book anyway. And why not? So we can help ourselves or someone else at any given time. Irritability is another symptom of a possible symptom. You don't have to have that, but a lot of times people who are depressed, they're more irritable because they don't want to be around others, so others easily annoy them, so they're much more easily irritated. They're much more easily angered as well. So because they just don't want to be bothered. And it doesn't mean that the person actually did anything. It's just how the person who's feeling depressed is feeling. Everything is annoying. Everything is irritating, because those senses are more heightened now because I'm not feeling well in my mind and in my emotions, in my body, right? Okay, so we can't change what has happened in the past. So it doesn't do us any good to dwell on it. What it does is it continues the depression if I'm dwelling on the past event that I cannot even change. Yes, the event happened, but I can't do anything about what happened 1 second ago, 5 seconds ago, 5, 10, 20, 30 years ago. I can't change any of those facts. But what I can do now is manage how I'm feeling and thinking about those facts of the past. I can manage the symptoms that I'm feeling now that I just shared with you, some of them. I can learn to manage them once I know that this is what's going on. Right. And one of the ways that we're going to get into some of the ways that you can help yourself toward the end, because I'm going to give you the symptoms and different things like that, and talk about what do we want to do about it. So one of the things that I'm just going to say right off the bat is seeking counsel, because some things is just bigger than us. We don't understand it. And so someone such as myself who went to school for this, we understand the ins and outs and how to manage it better. So then hopefully at some point overcome it. And also to combining again the cognitive, the emotional, the behavioral, the physiological, and helping you to understand your own personage better, your own humanity, your own physical body, and how it all works together. And when things come to happen to us, or even some things that we've done, and how it affects us in all 4 of those areas, because there are signs, but we just don't know the signs because we don't pay attention to the signs in that way. We might feel it, we might see it, We might think it and we may be acting a certain way, but we'll attribute it to something else other than our mental health, just because we're not informed, not because we're in denial, although denial could be a part of it, but a lot of us just aren't educated to understand. So that's one of the reasons why I want to share this information, because everybody's not going to go to a therapist to understand. But maybe if you had the information, now it's like, you know what, I think I have many of those symptoms. I think I might need to go see a therapist because this is bigger than me. This is too challenging. I've been experiencing this for too long. And you know what? I have control over my life right now as an adult, especially. But if you have children also, and you see some of these signs, get your children into therapy, because it's not something that you can handle as a non-professional. And even if you are a professional, that's your child, and you don't do therapy on your own child, so to speak. So seeking help is a good thing. And when you do that, hopefully when you find the right fit, again, you'll learn about yourself, and then learning the things to do to manage these symptoms better, you'll begin to feel better. Sometimes there's pharmacological therapy that goes along with, which is medication. Everybody doesn't need medication, but that's something to talk to your doctor about in conjunction with your therapist to see if it's that severe where you need a pharmacological treatment as well as therapy at the same time. I don't recommend just going on a pharmacological treatment without therapy. That's not what's recommended when we're talking about mental health. First is let's see what we can do behaviorally and to manage your symptoms. That's the first thing without seeking medication. Let's see what I can do on my own first. My own, what I'm saying, is in conjunction with a therapist to change my thinking, how I manage my emotions, and how I then make better decisions in my actions. Let me see if I can do some of that work first, because you can overcome and heal without medication. But now if it's too severe, maybe temporarily or however long, you might need medication along with going to therapy. So, but again, that's for your physician, your psychiatrist, to discuss with you and your therapist to see what is the best course of action for you. So those were some of these symptoms. Again, not an exhaustive list, but those were some of the symptoms of depression. So again, dwelling on the past that you can't change, but having some mental and emotional and behavioral and physiological fallout from that. But how do I manage that? And so one of the ways to manage it is to learn the lessons from the past, the things that you can't change. However, what was my part in that, directly or indirectly? And in all honesty, and this is where we have to be honest with ourselves, what did I do to contribute to that? And you may have done nothing, because you may be the victim of something of sorts that then led to the depression. So I'm not saying you always have culpability, but I'm just saying we have to look at it from all angles depending on what it is. And then when we figure that out, it's like, okay, so present, moving forward, I don't want to do X, Y, and Z again, because I see that this caused me to feel this way. And I don't like that feeling. But now that I have it, I can learn to manage that by going to a therapist, going to a support group, and learning or reading books and articles and things of that nature, so I can understand myself better. So when we understand ourselves better, hopefully, it's not a guarantee, that we will do better when our awareness is raised. So now let's focus on anxiety. So depression, we talk about dwelling on, ruminating over, worrying about things of the past. Anxiety is worrying about and being fearful of the things in the future. Fearing something happening or not happening creates anxiety in us, because we only have limited, and that's very limited, control. Anxiety is the fear of not having the control of something in my life. So we can look over the past couple of years when this disease has been upon us. There hasn't been a lot of control that we have over the disease itself, but we can manage it by the protocols, following the protocols, wearing a mask, getting vaccinated, hand washing frequently, and using hand sanitizer, social distancing. Those are the things you can manage, because you can't control the disease. But I can manage what I do, how I carry myself with the different protocols to protect myself from the possibility of getting it. It's no guarantee because, again, we can't control the disease and other people, but I can do my part in managing it to hopefully bring down the chances that I might get it. So Stephen Covey has a great saying, and I'm going to paraphrase it here, that the only thing in life that we can change is our response to events. And events are people, places, and things. I nor you can change other people, places, or things, but what we do have control over is our response to it. So if you want a negative outcome, respond negatively to people, other people, places, situations, things. If you want a positive outcome, then respond positively to get that outcome. Sounds simple, but it's not that simple to do, because if it was, we wouldn't have the problems that we have in life, right? So we need to think about, what type of outcome do I want in this situation? Well, more than likely you want a positive outcome. So if I want that outcome, how do I respond to this person right here who is getting on my nerves, right? Or this situation right here that I don't like? Now you make your decision on how to respond based on the outcome that you want. So with anxiety, dwelling on the future, fearing the future, there's not a lot of control that you have except for your response. So some of the controls, as an example, parents, one of their number one thing to do is they want to control their children so their children don't have to suffer some things in life. And when your children are out of your sight, out of your care, because they have to go to school and someone else cares for them, the teacher, the principal, etc., or they're going to their friend's house or whatever. But when they're out of your care, then you no longer have control over their safety and their behavior. So that creates a level of anxiety in parents, because it's like, oh my God, I hope my child is safe, or I hope my child doesn't misbehave. But you hope that what you've done in the home, as far as training them and teaching them the rights and wrongs of life and how to behave, that they're taking that out into the world and they're following your direction. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But then also too, they have access to other people who don't have their best interest at heart. And you know that as a parent, and you know they're susceptible because of their age. And that's fearful for a parent. And so not being able to control that creates a lot of anxiety in parents when children leave the home. Even when adult children leave the home, parents are still fearful, but probably not as much as when they're, children's age and teenage years. So when that anxiety rises up, how does a parent control that? And I'm going to get into it, like I said, some wellness tips later. But one thing is, you just have to trust that you put in your child what it is that you needed to put in him or her so they can make the right decisions in any given moment that will keep them safe. But there's no guarantee. They're children. Their minds aren't as developed as adults. Even adults aren't that safe. We see what goes on in the world today. So a child is much more vulnerable to the world today, right? And so, well, some other things, our finances, especially again in these past couple of years, what's been going on with the economy. People have lost their jobs because of the disease that, has come upon us. And so we become anxious about our future, our financial future. What if I lose my job? What if, all these what ifs about our finances? And so that creates a level of anxiety, living in unstable times, unstable financial times. And that's a real concern. But when it goes more to an extreme, the fear and the worry, and now it's causing the symptoms of anxiety that I'm about to get into, then we know that it's more now a diagnosable issue, as opposed to the person who has already developed some level of coping skills to deal with different things that happen in life, and they're able to already manage it, probably because they've had some things happen to them earlier on. And then when this thing happens, I've already developed the coping skills. So I just transfer them from that event to this event, and I'm managing them better. And oftentimes when we experience things, we develop the coping skills. So when other things come, it's like, okay, been here, done that. Doesn't have to necessarily be the same thing, but I have developed some coping skills. So I know I have some familiarity with when things don't go according to plan. Let's just call it like that. So some of the symptoms of anxiety are, and again, this is not an exhaustive list, but these are some of the ones I wanted to highlight. Um, Racing thoughts, when one thought after the other, after the other, after the other is coming, and it's just like rapid fire, and seems like you don't have control over your thoughts. Increased heart rate or heart palpitations, sweating, possibly, trouble concentrating, increased worry and fear, obviously. Trembling is a possibility, insomnia, some form of sleep disturbance, nervousness, restlessness, rapid breathing, shortness of breath, and feeling of impending doom or death, and irritability. So, those again are some symptoms of anxiety. And so, when you find yourself having, 4 or 5, 6 of these symptoms, it's like, maybe, and I'm experiencing an episode of anxiety, just as if you had 4, 5, 6, 7 of those symptoms of depression. Maybe you're experiencing that as well. And then over a period of time. But if you're not sure, seek a consultation with the therapist to see. And then the therapist can walk you through to see how long it's been going on, what's the frequency that it's happening, to say if it's really an issue, a diagnosable issue, and because of whatever's going on and has been going on in your life, what has contributed to that. And then, going on from there to see what, is the recommendation by the therapist of how to move forward with possible treatment, or seeing your physician or psychiatrist, or getting some blood work, because maybe it's something else, because everything doesn't have to be a mental health issue. It could be hormonal, chemical, something like that. So that's why the therapist working in conjunction with your doctor and psychiatrist is important, that holistic work. But I would definitely say see a therapist and see, because if you have, multiples of these symptoms, there could be an issue there that you need to address. And now you'll see some better results than just thinking, oh, this is just me. No, that's what's going on with you because of a circumstance and because of an issue. But that can be managed better. And then how great would that be when you start to think better, feel better, then behave better, right? And then some of the things we're going to talk about in a minute, it will help those relationships that may have been hindered because of the depression or the anxiety. And also it may have contributed to some other fallout, let's just say, in other walks of life that you encounter on a daily basis, like the workplace or school, if you're attending school. So, so just to recap, depression is focusing on the future, focusing on the past, and anxiety is worrying about the future. I'm going to, the moderator is going to put up a quote by Lao Tzu. And I say this all the time, but my abbreviation of it, depression is the past, anxiety is the future. That's my abbreviation, my shortened version of it. Not that it's long, but that's just my shortened version of it. And so let's see. The moderator put it up. I'm going to read it on the screen because I think it might be bigger writing than what I have here. Let's see. Moderator, can you put it up on the screen for me? Okay, she did. Okay, let me look at it here. Oh, hi, Netta. Thank you for watching. Hi, Fruitful You. Sorry, I didn't even look at the chat. My bad. But moderator, you know what? You can put it. I'm sorry, Bot. You can put it up again. If you are depressed, you are living in the past. If you are anxious, you are living in the future. If you are at peace, you are living in the present. Lao Tzu. Can you believe that small, short sentence gives you the answers right there? Not easily to be done, but it gives you the answer right there. Living in the present is where the peace is. Can't change the past. Nothing about it can you change. Not one thing. The facts of your past are the facts. You can't do anything about the future except what you do in the present to manage your present day circumstance that will then make your future better with what you can control. That's the issue. And you can only control your response. So an example would be, I rob a bank. So more than likely, you rob a bank, you get caught, you go to jail, and all of that. So can't change the fact that I robbed the bank. That's the fact of the past. But now, in the present, what can I do? Oh, I can not show up to court. Do I want a positive or somewhat positive outcome of that I control the fact that I robbed the bank? Or do I want a negative outcome? So if I want a negative outcome, don't show up to court, make it worse. So now I've just dictated more than likely what's going to happen in my future, right? That there's going to be a warrant out for my arrest and bad things are going to happen. If I had any hope of salvaging, a life not in jail, I need to show up to court with an attorney, be on my best behavior, have people vouching for me if I want a positive outcome. See, this is where the response, the only thing I control is my response. So let me behave now. Like I said, get my lawyer, get my people who are on my side, know my character. This was just a one-off. I don't know what I was thinking. Showing up for court, presentable. So that's what I can do right now in the present to hopefully affect the future outcome. Can't change the fact that I robbed the bank though. But what I did right now can determine my outcome, right? I can behave negatively in the present or positively in the present to determine the outcome, the best possible outcome I could get by the judge. You understand what I'm trying to say here? So be mindful that your response is the only thing that you can control. And what we struggle with is we want to control everything. We want to control people. Why don't they just do what I want them to do and everything would be fine? Well, that person is saying the same thing about you. Why doesn't she just do everything I want her to do? We'd be fine. We all want people to do what we want them to do, but then they would be clones. We would get nowhere in life because we would all be the same. We wouldn't make any progress because we would only know the same exact things. So we'd be clones of Sharon. So we would have nothing, no technology, nothing in all my weak areas. We would live in the Stone Ages, but we would be good counselors though. Right? So we don't want clones of ourselves. We want people to be different. We want people to bring other things to the table so we can be productive in our differences. So let's stop trying to control other people because we can't. And we get so frustrated with others. But remember, others are getting frustrated with you because they want to control you too. So it's not just you. So let's just allow grace. Let them be them, you be you, me be me, and just control your response. It's the only thing you can do. Someone's arguing and calling you all kinds of names and doing that. Don't jump in the fray with them. Never lower yourself to that. Raise the bar. I'm not going to involve myself in that level of discourse. When we can have a civil conversation, we'll resume the conversation. But for now, I can see that you're frustrated, you're angry, you're this and that. I'm going to bow out of the conversation. Never stoop. Never stoop. Raise the bar. Don't allow someone else to take you out of your character. That's just a side note right there from Sharon, the clinician. Okay, so stop trying to control other people, situations, events, people, places, and things. And it'll cut down on your frustration. Cut down on your anxiety. Can't control the future. Control the present. Remember the quote, peace is in the present. You can't even enjoy the blessings and the opportunities in the present because you may miss them because you're too busy focused on the past or worrying about the future. Missing the blessings and the opportunities in the present moment. But now they're past. Like, well, I didn't even know it was there. Oh, I didn't even see it. It happens. It happens all the time. Missed opportunities. We don't want to live in those regrets. So let's see if anybody had any comments. Did I miss any comments, Maud, that we want to put up on the screen? I know Netta and Fruitful You, Rachel, Auntie, and Mommy are watching. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And those of you who are watching on the replay, thank you so much for watching. Like I said, the replay of all of my videos are always relevant. So it doesn't matter when you watch, and I just appreciate you watching them live or on the replay. So thank you so very much. And those who are watching the replay, if you have comments and questions, please share them, because I do go back and read them and make comments and answer questions if I can. So feel free to do that. So that's anxiety. And you know, over these past couple of years with the disease that's running rampant, I say disease because on YouTube, they don't like using the P word, of, the P word that spans over the globe when you have a sickness, that word. And they don't, the name of this disease, they don't like saying that because of disinformation and misinformation. So I'm saying the disease. In these times where the disease has been running rampant, I can't tell you, I don't think I have any clients that aren't experiencing some level of anxiety because of the disease, because of the unstable economic times, and because when the parents, they have children and the children are experiencing this because there's hybrid school, there's in-person school, there's your school online, so many different things. And so the young people are experiencing it as well. And then with the social injustice, the political upheaval, all of these things that are going on and the climate issues, people are stressing. We haven't been here before with all of these things culminating at once. And a lot of people are anxious, understandably so, because the future seems unstable. And where there's instability, there's anxiety. Whereas before, let's just say 5 years before, 10 years before, we didn't live in times like this. And people did anxiety exist? Absolutely. But it's come to a level now where it's very prevalent. Let me just say that. So let me look in the chat. Okay, thank you so much. There weren't any questions. I don't want to miss anything. Moderator tries to keep me on track, and try to keep me on track with the time too. Last time I didn't do too well, and because I didn't listen to her, but I'm going to listen today. So talked about anxiety, talked about depression. And so just remember those two things: depression in the past, anxiety, depression is living in the past, anxiety is living in the future. If we want peace, we want to live in the present. Remembering those three things can help you to, okay, I got to refocus, because you know what? I'm thinking of the past. Let me stop. Let me refocus. I talk to myself, right? So I can refocus when my mind goes here and there. Sharon, stop. Bring it in. This is literally what I'm saying to myself in my head. You can do the same thing. Self-talk is a part of a therapeutic intervention. When you're going too much in your head, too far in the future, bring it in, bring it in, bring it in. Stop, because now you're worrying. Now I'm worrying. Now I'm fearful. I'm feeling the anxiety rise with the sweating and the trembling, all those things that I just said. Heart palpitations, stop. Take a breath. Deep breathe. That's one of the wellness tips that I have on here. Let's do some deep breathing. Let's do some things that's going to help lower my heart rate, help me to feel better in the moment, because I've gone somewhere in my mind that I don't want to go, because it's creating this anxiety in me or these symptoms of depression. So so let's talk about some wellness tips. So I just talked about deep breathing. Deep breathing is so good. It helps to lower the heart rate. It helps to bring down some of the level of anxiety or fear or anger, whatever the high emotion that you're experiencing, regulating the heart. It just helps to to bring calm to the situation. Is it a cure-all? No, but it absolutely helps. It seems like it's such a small thing to do, but the physiological effects it has on you when we deep breathe, because we typically like shallow breathing, especially when we're anxious, because that was one of the symptoms. So when we take the deep breath in through our nose, deep breath in through your nose, and you hold it for 4 or 5 seconds, maybe 6 or 7, depending, right? And of course, I'm talking right now, so I'm not holding it so much, and I'm closing my eyes because that's how I normally do it. And then you breathe out slowly through your mouth. So breathe in slowly through your nose, hold it 4, 5, 6 seconds, and then breathe out slowly through your mouth. You do that 5, 6, 7, 8, how many ever times that you feel comfortable. And then it's like, you feel like, you know what? I am feeling a little bit better. It happens just like that with just that simple exercise. It really does. It really does a phenomenal job. So when you just want to just take a break, you don't even have to be feeling anxious or depressed. You should practice deep breathing just throughout the day so it could become a habit. And it's a good habit, reoxygenating the lungs, It's great for the lungs, especially for people who have had COVID. It's one of the things my doctor told me to do when I had COVID. Oh, I just said the word, but that's okay. And it really did help because that disease affects the lungs, which affects the breathing. So when you do the deep breathing, it helps bring more air to the lungs, and it really does help. So it helps our breathing in general. So you should just do it throughout the day whenever you think about it. And then when you need it because of feeling anxious, angry, fearful, whatever, it's like it's not something that you have to reach for. Wait, what did she say to do? You're just so used to doing it. You know what? Let me just do some deep breathing. And then it helps you right there in that moment. So some other wellness tips. Again, focusing on the present. Remember that. Just bring your mind in. Focus on the present. Focus on the present. And one way to try and do that, self-talk, you do that, then do some deep breathing right there to push out the past and to push out the future. Push out the depressive thoughts, push out the anxious thoughts. Just self-talk, Sharon saying the present. You know what? Let me just do some breathing, to deep breathing to center myself. So I'm just thinking on right now, the present moment. So take 5 minutes to do that when you want to allow yourself to be present in the moment so you're not in the past and you're not in the future. Seek counseling or support groups. So these are wellness tips now, or self-care tips, tips to help you manage depression and anxiety symptoms, right? Speak affirmations daily and meditate on the affirmations. Spirituality, I am a Christian, so prayer, studying the word, spending time alone with God, that really helps because no one can bring peace like God can bring peace. No one brings peace like Jesus Christ. So I would say prayer, meditating on the word, and quiet time with the Lord, and meditating on scriptures. All that helps you to be present, not in the past and not in the future. And it helps you to be at peace in the moment where you can enjoy the present moment and not miss anything that God has for you in the present moment because you're too distracted by the past and the future. All right. Some self-help activities you could do, such as attending webinars, conferences, reading self-help books, or articles. Those are things that are at the ready, especially with, the internet. You don't have to leave home to go to a library like it used to be, so you can do some of those things. And a lot of these webinars and things of that nature are free. You can just go on YouTube and watch videos about different things that you want help with. They have tons of videos like this is now on YouTube about anxiety and what to do about it. So we have all of this stuff at our fingertips now. So definitely get involved in it to help your own mental health. Seek it out. It's there at the ready because we all, for the most part, have cell phones. So seek out the help that you need. And do some self-care activities. And I'm going to just name a few. There are so many. We're just going to name a few. So deep breathing, I already said. Meditation, I already said. Any form of exercise is good for our physical bodies, our mental, and emotional health. It's good for all of that. So any form of exercise is good for our whole being. Monitoring what we watch and listen to on television, because negative things have an impact on our mental health. See what's in the news? It seems like it's just all negativity that affects our mental being, and it affects our emotional being. So you got to be mindful of how much negativity you take in, because it affects our mental health, and it can affect our mental health tremendously. Trust me, it's a fact. All right, so get involved in a hobby. Maybe there's a hobby that you want to take up that you always thought about, but you never did, or just something new that you want to do. Maybe you want to start crocheting. Maybe you want to go to a pottery class. I don't know, just any number of things. So take up a hobby or take a class to learn something that you might want to do. I know when I was younger and in my 20s, when I lived in Center City, I took an acting class. I didn't want to be an actress or an actor, but it was my creative outlet. So I took an acting class at the Walnut Street Theater and I loved it. It was great. That was just my outlet that I wanted to use for creativity. And it was great. So there's any number of things that you can do. Don't forget to rest. Rest and sleep are two different things. Rest is resting your body, doing nothing or doing little to nothing that is allowing your body to rest. Also, sleep. Get the proper amount of sleep at night. Our organs regenerate when we're asleep and laying in the prone position. But if we're always up or have limited sleep, our organs aren't regenerating properly because we're not in the prone position. Our natural position is the prone position. And so our kidneys and our liver and all those are doing those functions to regenerate themselves. That's why you find yourself going to the bathroom overnight, because the kidneys are regenerating themselves and functioning properly and sending you to the bathroom to get out what it is pushing out. But if we're staying up all the time, I'm not saying we don't have these times in life where, oh, we got to stay up because of X, Y, and Z. But when it's the norm, that's a problem. So let's get the proper amount of sleep and rest your body. All right, creating a setting, a peaceful atmosphere in your home, an atmosphere of peace. Look around your home. Is it an atmosphere of peace? Who's in your home? What are they saying? What are you watching? And all of these things that radio, music, television, it's creating sound, and the sound comes out in the atmosphere, and it affects our mind. It affects our emotions. It really does. So what type of atmosphere are you creating? If you like candles and you like certain colors and things, well, make it happen. Add to your peace in the atmosphere of your home so your home can be your sanctuary. I see we have a comment from Netta. My favorite is stop, take a deep breath. Yes, Netta, that is awesome. And Fruitful You says reading and word games. Word games. Yes. See? Perfect. And Netta likes crossword puzzles. Am I right? Yes, it's crossword puzzles. So yes, those things also too come to help keep our brain sharp when we do those word types of games and other things like that. Helps to keep our brain sharp as we age. So it has a twofold, probably even more than twofold benefit. So thank you for those examples, Netta and Fruitful You. Very helpful. Quiet time, just quiet time. Go somewhere in the home, or it doesn't have to be in the home, by yourself. Have a few minutes or however long of quiet time. Just relax. Learn to be okay by being by yourself. We always have to have somebody around. It's a problem when you always have to have somebody around. It says you don't like you. You don't like being alone with you. It's an issue. Why don't you like being alone with you? What are you thinking about that is so horrible, or that you're downing yourself or whatever, that you don't want to be alone by you? When you're alone with yourself, you can plan, you can without distraction, and you can think of things that of how to problem solve or whatever it is you need to do for your life without the distraction. We're constantly distracting. How are we going to do stuff that we need to do if we're constantly distracted? I should have said. Distraction is a tactic of the enemy to keep us from our God purpose, right? If he can keep us distracted doing this busy work, then we're not doing whatever our God assignment is, because we're too distracted doing busy work, or wanting company all the time, or wanting somebody here to. What's that about? You need to think about that. But am I saying spend your life alone? I'm just saying we need those times of quiet to reflect, to process. Never reflect and process on life. How are you going to change and be better if you never reflect on yesterday to see, well, how did I handle yesterday? What did I do good? What didn't I do well? And so the areas that I didn't do well, I need to improve on that. If we never sit and reflect, how are we going to know these things? And this is why we repeat cycles and we don't change behaviors. We never sit and reflect on what happened yesterday so I don't repeat the same patterns. Families repeat the same patterns generation after generation. Sad. Because nobody's breaking the cycle. Oh, well, this is what mom and dad taught me, so I'm going to repeat. But you see as an adult that it's wrong. It's not working. It was not working. Why are you continuing it? You're a grown person now. Child, you might not have control. But as a grown person, you do. Stop doing it if it's not working. Stop doing it if it's unhealthy behavior. Just because your parents taught it to you or you learned it from them, just because it was unhealthy then and it's still unhealthy now, you don't have to continue it. we just have to think like, why am I doing this? Right. I don't have to. And we know behaviors, get ingrained in us because of, training and rearing. We understand that. But again, as an adult, it's like, this isn't working. And now I have control. I can do something different. Right. Like one of the things, obvious things I'm going to say as a therapist, especially in the Black community, don't go to therapy. Let's stay sick, silent. Silence is sickness. Let's stay silent in the house. You don't tell people your problems. So everybody stays sick, generation after generation, carrying those patterns on. And now people are learning to know therapy helps get you better. You do tell, secrets, so to speak, in confidence. And the secret just, it doesn't mean it has to be something incredible, something really out there. It's just that these are behaviors that I learned. This is how I'm thinking. This is how I'm emoting. And this is not working for me, or it's making me feel depressed or anxious or whatever else, or have trauma. So I just need to work through that. And it's okay. So just because the older generation doesn't want to do it, and now as the younger generation, and now you're an adult and you have control. Maybe parents didn't send you to therapy then, but now I have control over my life. So you know what? I'm going to go to therapy. I'm going to break that generational pattern of sickness in the family. So when I have my kids, I'm not going to carry that on. They won't even know that because I'm not going to bring that to the table for them. I'm going to let them know therapy is a good thing. If you ever feel you need to go, let me know. Or if I think you need to go, I'm going to send you. That's breaking those generational cycles. Step out and break those sick cycles. And you'll often find when you step out, others in your family will get free. Because a lot of times it just takes one person to step out and do something different. And then everybody's looking at you, well, I want to live like that too. She's not stressed anymore. She's not this, she's not that. And I want to have that less stress life too. And so now you bring the family out of that cycle. But now let me just say one thing about the older generation not doing certain things. They're only doing what they learned. So we got to allow grace for that. They didn't know that therapy was a good thing because they were told it was a bad thing. I'm just using therapy as an example. So we don't want to beat them up too much. They didn't know. They just did what they were taught. And then back then, speaking of people of color, wasn't that many Black and brown therapists. So it's like, and the whole black-white thing, it's like, Black people distrustful of white folks just because of, the whole American issue, what I'm talking about. And this is a generalization. So it's like, it was a lot of skepticism around therapy. But now we have Black and brown therapists. So it's like, okay. And I'm not saying every Black and brown therapist is a therapist for you. It's about a fit. But now if I can resonate someone I can, who looks like me, understands my plight, so to speak, some of it, just by being a Black American, maybe I'll feel more comfortable sharing some things without having that baggage of that history, that racial history. So let's not beat up on the older generations. They did the best that they knew at the time because of how they were raised. Same with us. We're just learning different things now. They didn't learn that then. But as you learn it, do better and try to bring them forward. That's all. That's how it works. That's how we break generational patterns. So that was not in my notes. It's a whole a side note, but it was a good side note, an excellent side note that we need to take heed of. So what else? Some of the wellness tips. The type of listening to music, nature sounds. I like water. So listening to those, or maybe having a fountain somewhere in your home or something like that. So you hear the trickling of the water. That's just my thing. There's plenty of nature sounds. Well, again, the type of music that you listen to that you might find soothing, relaxing, that sort of thing. And taking, like I said, taking any type of class for enjoyment, painting, acting, pottery, whatever, drawing, things of that nature. So those were just a few things for wellness tips and self-care tips to better manage depression symptoms that we talked about early and better manage anxiety symptoms that we talked about as well. Remember, depression, unresolved issues of the past that have affected me mentally, emotionally, physically, as well as behaviorally in my conduct. And anxiety is the future that I'm worrying and fearful about something happening or something not happening. But if we live in the present, that's where the peace is. And so we want to focus on living in the present, not in the past, depression, not in the future, anxiety. I think I had something else that I wanted to. Oh yeah. So how our mental health shows up, and this is the last thing. And that I see that you have a comment. I'm going to get to it in a second. Some of the ways that our mental health shows up in our daily lives. So we're easily annoyed or irritated with others, whether they've done something or not. It's just because of how we're feeling. We could be quick tempered, easily angered, not wanting to be around others, isolating because we're feeling depressed. And so remember, when we're feeling that way, we might tend to isolate, not want to participate in activities that we once found enjoyable. And others also too, not just us not wanting to be around others not wanting to be around us, because maybe we've developed with depression, we've developed possibly this pessimistic outlook. And so you're like Debbie Downer. Everything's negative, everything's a complaint, and that brings the atmosphere down, that brings people down. So sometimes people might not even want to be around you, because when you're depressed, you seem like you're so down, and also too anxious. When you're being fearful, that can be a downer too, because everything's negative. It's a pessimistic view of doom and gloom about life. So it works both ways. And how possible failed relationships, because of our unresolved issues that we bring to the table of that relationship, that have nothing to do with that other person in the relationship, but it's our baggage, and now our baggage is affecting this current relationship. So that is how our mental health shows up in relationships too, in relationships that may fail because of that. Relationships fail for many reasons. I'm just saying this could be one. And it affects our social interpersonal skills, because again, if you're isolating, right, then you're not socializing with others, and then when you do, you feel awkward because you don't do it a lot, and you have this anxiety. What are they thinking about me? How are they sizing me up? Because now I'm a little fearful about how I'm interacting with them, and it's all in my mind. It's not what they're thinking, it's in my mind, because of my low self-esteem, possibly because of what has happened in my past, right? I don't have a high confidence. My confidence is low in myself because of what I've experienced. And so all of that is affecting my self-esteem. And it's showing up in how I relate to other people and the decisions that I make. Your self-esteem affects your decisions. And maybe I'm a people pleaser. That affects your decision. So you're constantly seeking approval and doing things to get approval from others. And so that affects relationships as well. And it affects our decision making. So those are some things, some ways that our mental health shows up in our everyday daily life, by some of those things I just said there. So Netta, let me read Netta's comment. If the mod can highlight that comment. Let me see. Netta says, you can't control what comes into your mind, but I agree with you when you can read, especially the Bible. Okay, especially the Bible, or even look at television and get interested in the story, do crossword puzzles. All those things have to take those negative thoughts out of your mind. Yes, now I'm not going to say those things take the thought out of your mind, because that's not necessarily so. But it can be a distraction, a momentary distraction, because now you're thinking about something else. But sometimes the thoughts can be so intrusive, where it's like these things aren't really working. And a lot of times you have intrusive thoughts. So intrusive thoughts, this means that's something I'm not even thinking about. And it's like it's intruding on my mind, versus the thoughts that I am intentionally thinking about. So there's thoughts that I'm intentionally thinking about, and then there's intrusive thoughts that I'm not even trying to think about that, but these thoughts are coming, right? So there's a couple different types of thoughts. And so sometimes these things, as Netta said, can distract us momentarily while we're doing it, but sometimes the thoughts are so powerful that nothing's distracting. And when you find yourself in that category, you probably should seek counseling. Maybe seek counseling for either category, but especially when you have these intrusive thoughts, and it's there, that's most of the time, and you finding yourself not being able to control them, and they're more on the negative side of making you, feel bad about yourself, your life, others around you, and leaning more toward, helplessness, hopelessness, right? Which then could lead to, suicidal thoughts and that nature, that downward spiral. So definitely seek counsel if your, thoughts are continuing to go down that downward spiral. That's an indicator to seek counseling. So if you have a lot of those symptoms that I talked about with the depression and the anxiety, you should seek counsel. And in the description of this YouTube video and of the Facebook video and in the chat is the suicide hotline number, gambling hotline number, and the domestic violence hotline number. I have those other ones in there because those other categories can contribute to domestic violence, and gambling can contribute to depression and anxiety as well. So that's why those numbers are there as well. Pass those numbers along, put those numbers in your contacts, in your phone, so you have them at the ready for you or a loved one, friend, stranger, whatever, when they need it. You have those numbers in your phone. It's always good to keep those numbers in your phone. The suicide hotline, gambling hotline, and the domestic violence hotline. So those are the things. Let me see what's in the chat. Gotta pay attention, or the mod is going to really have a word with me when we get done. Okay. Generate. Okay, got it. So did I read all of the comments? Anything else? Let me see. Yes, I'm doing good. I do not want to be scolded when I'm done. No, she keeps me on track. I couldn't do this without her. So that is the show for tonight, about anxiety and depression and how it shows up in our everyday life. I hope these tips and this information and education was helpful for you. Please share this video with others who you think can benefit from understanding their mental health better as it relates to depression and anxiety. It is rampant. It is rampant in the land with all of the things that I mentioned earlier, the political upheaval, social unrest, economic uncertainty, the disease of the times, and the climate issues. There's so many issues that have come to shake our foundation, except for those of us whose foundation is Jesus Christ. But that show is Thursday. So we need to understand ourselves better. So share this video with those who you think could benefit from understanding themselves better as it relates to depression and anxiety and how it shows up in our everyday life. That is my time. That is my show for this evening. Again, I hope it blessed you. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel, like the Facebook page, like the video if you like the video, and click the notification bell so you'll be notified whenever we are on. And once you click the notification bell, click all. This way you don't even have to think about it. Click all, and you'll be notified every day that we're on. We're on Tuesday through Thursday right now. Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9 p.m., Wednesdays at 8 p.m. So join me tomorrow for a live episode of Race Matters at 8 p.m. on the same channel for Life Communications, Facebook and YouTube Live. We're going to be talking about current events that's in the news that have to deal with race, some things that you may not have come across your feed, so you might not be aware of. So stay tuned and watch us tomorrow. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for watching on the replay. Put your comments and questions in the feed, and I will get to them once you put them in there. Thank you so much. I love you all. I love you with the love of the Lord. God bless you. Have a God evening. Shalom.